Hello everyone, my name is Nex, and today I will be discussing the changes that have been done in the new 1.15 Bedrock beta. Now, this is not the nether update, this is a bug fix update, and this is probably also the updates that will be bringing the Java and Bedrock version numbers to the same number for each update. So that means that the nether update on Bedrock will probably be 1.16, just like Java Edition. And this means that people finally will not have to bother about knowing that Bedrock Edition is one version lower, but that B update is not 1.15 and 1.14 on Bedrock, and all that stuff. But anyways, so I'm just going to show you today what still works and what doesn't. Alright, so before we talk about the 1.15 beta updates, I'm going to talk about one change in the 1.14.30 update that was recently released. And one particular thing in the patch notes was that Kelp was reverted to regular speed, and that was a change that many players were very happy to see. However, there has been actually no change at all done, so I assume this is a miscommunication between the teams at Mojang. But anyways, a friend of mine did some code digging, he decompiled the code, and as you can see, there's absolutely no difference between 1.14.20 and 1.14.30. So that means they did absolutely touch nothing. And yeah, I suppose that's a case of miscommunication. It happens, but yeah, there's no changes to Kelp whatsoever, unfortunately. So it will still be slow for natural growth, and for zero-tick farms it will still sort of randomly break, which is also a consequence of the weird behavior of Kelp since the update 1.14. Either way, let's get into the things that still work in this update, and that would be all zero-tick farms. So, this zero-tick shuriken farm still works just fine. So as you can see, it grows and all. This one right here does as well. This is my really fast zero-tick shuriken method. The zero-tick bamboo works as well. As you can see, it works excellently. Zero-tick kelp works. Zero-tick cactus. Either way, you get the deal. All the zero-tick farms still work unconditionally, and if they don't work for you, they should have not worked in the previous updates either, and that is probably because you didn't chunk align them or do something like that, and yeah. What still works as well in this update is trident killers. They still work just like they did since 1.13, or I guess not really since 1.13, but since 1.14.20, because carpet killers don't even break over time, they just don't work at all. But yeah, these types of shrine killers that I have designed previously and that I have posted since like November of last year still work. They still work fine, and don't worry about them. Now there's one thing that works again since this update, and this is flower farms that directly bone meal grass. Now I have posted a flower farm tutorial that bone meals a flower to spread the flowers and then pushes the grass blocks back and forth. But this one I released quite a while back, and this one works again. Now, it used to not break in the couple last updates because, well, they did break something in regard to grass directly being bone mealed by a dispenser, and that would literally crash the entire game or server or realm or whatever you ran it on. But yeah, that works again. That does not crash any worlds anymore. And I suppose it can be seen as unfortunate because you cannot do ghost portals as demonstrated by Flowlin anymore. I mean, you probably could, but you don't have an easy way to crash the entire server instantly. And yeah, so that is fixed. Now before we go into the things that have been broken, let's look at the things that are still broken. So for example, Translocation is still broken, and so is this shulker loader design right here. Unfortunately, they did not do any changes in regard to moving blocks having a full hitbox. And by the way, there's a link to that bug report in the description, so definitely go upvote it. And transferring surface spawns using slabs is intact as well, so they have not touched that and it will work just fine. Now onto the things that have actually broken, and you're going to be very sad. They broke gravity block stacking, which means the things like the elytra launchers and the sand pushers will not work anymore, and that is very sad. Let me just demonstrate you what I mean. The gravity block stacking was a mechanic that had been in game for a very long time and is a community beloved mechanic, and that unfortunately got removed in 1.15, which is really sad because It's such a good mechanic, and they sort of removed it. And I have a feedback post in the description that will be there for you to upvote, and that way Mojang can see this and they will be able to maybe keep this feature in future updates. However, at the time of writing this, the post is still pending approval, so I will have to see when I can put it in the description. But well, yeah, it is going to be there and you will be able to upvote it, and maybe hopefully we can get this mechanic back. But yeah, the breaking of this mechanic means that things like my concrete converter also broke as well, and yeah, it's kind of sad, I suppose. Also, my gold farm did rely on those sand pushers to move the pigmen into the dragon killers, and that means that the design in its current iteration is broken. However, the mechanic that exists that spawns more pigmen if you light an unlighted portal still is there, and as demonstrated on my last stream, you can just make an alternate version by using Golem aggroing a pigman constantly, and then the pigman pathfinding to that golem. You can use that for a gold farm. So yes, this specific iteration is broken because of the sand pushers being broken, but no, these types of gold farms will still work in the future. And of course, whenever the 1.15 Bedrock update releases, I will post a video on that. Next up, they broke one minor thing, and that was that trapdoors had a hitbox slightly smaller than a full block. So previously, you used to be able to stand on spaces like this, you used to be able to stand on that block, although it seemed flat, but the trapdoor was slightly smaller. That is not the case anymore, and that means that you also cannot use the trapdoors for item alignment with hoppers anymore, but honestly that's okay, that's not too big of a change, unlike the gravity block stacking. Now, a long-time Java mechanic has been introduced into Bedrock Edition, and that is that large spruce trees spread podzol underneath them, and that is finally a renewable way to farm podzol. However, a big nerf, or I guess just a bug, came with that, and that is that trees will not grow if there is any leaves above them, and that is very detrimental to all types of tree farms. So let's just test that out. Let's remove the wood, because previously tree generation would ignore leaves above it, so it would grow regardless of whether there were leaves, but that is not the case anymore. They do not grow anymore with any leaves above them, so that does block their actual growth. And because oak trees were not affected by this previously, well, they were not affected by anything being inside their 5x5 area. So basically, if you don't know, previously any type of sapling needed a 5x5 area clear around the sapling for it to grow, and that's how most tree farms operated. They just cleared most of the leaves, but not all of them, to allow the saplings, of course, to grow again. They just removed the wood, and yeah, that is a thing that will not work anymore in 1.15. Also, a bug report in the description, go upvote that. But like I said, oak trees were not affected by this previously, so for oak tree farms, you will only have to remove the wood, and the sapling will still grow. But it still cripples the other types of trees, and will completely prevent them from growing. Let's just demonstrate that one more time. Absolutely nothing happens, and I am in creative, I am spamming bone meal. It should instantly grow, but it doesn't, so go upvote the bug. Now the next change we're going to look over is a change regarding withers being able to blow up obsidian. So before this update, the only way that you used to be able to encage a wither was using the Bedrock block, which by the way used to be obtainable. In 1.15 it technically still is obtainable, but since gravity block stacking has been removed, our method for breaking Bedrock would have to be changed. But anyways, as you can see, the wither is encaged. And in previous versions, if you were going to encage it in obsidian, it would not stay encaged, it would just break all of the obsidian. However, in 1.15, the obsidian stays intact. Now, this is a sort of intentional change, because the wither in Java Edition is not able to blow up obsidian during its spawning animation, and that's something they brought to parity. However, their bug report clearly states that blue skulls are supposed to be able to blow up obsidian. However, that is not the case. I have tried it extensively, And blue skulls will not be able to blow up obsidian, those types of skulls, by the way. So that means that we have obsidian wither cages, because withers are not able to break obsidian in any way. However, that also means that obsidian farms are dead. This also means very simple wither killers. So as you can see, this is just an end gateway being rebuilt out of obsidian, and the wither will absolutely not be able to break out of there and will just die painfully and slowly. If you're wondering how to build this, you can easily rebuild this just by looking at what it looks like. So it's just like an end gateway, and there's this little T-shape, so 3 blocks, and then you put the T-shape there. And as you can see, the T-shape has to be on the west side of this little gateway structure. And then you just have to spawn in the wither like this, with this results like that. And only spawn in one wither at a time. But yeah, that is a very simple wither killer. However, I am not sure if this is going to stay, so I wouldn't rely too much on it, because eventually you might just have a wither floating around free, and that would not be very good, especially if you build a tree farm using this obsidian. So another couple changes are in regards to withers. Now, if I just spawn a wither in, okay, actually I am on peaceful, but now let's spawn a wither in, you will notice a difference, and it is that the wither will indeed start to blow up blocks below it during its spawning animation. Previously it used to not be able to reach that far down, but now it does apparently, so it seems like the explosion radius of the spawning has increased. There also has been another change. So previously, withers used to break blocks in a formation like this, and this would mean that in a wither cage setup they would be able to break blocks above it. We can just test that out right now. So if we just place one glass here, it should break, but it doesn't. If we place it one block lower, it gets broken, and that means that they shaved off one block off the top from the breaking area of the wither. Now down below it just breaks it like normal, like it previously did, and yeah, so they definitely did some changes in regard to that. Alright, so the next change is probably one of the most highly anticipated ones, and it is that iron golems now spawn a lot faster. Now, from early testing, it seems like the rates have increased about 10 times, so now you will be able to gain around 400 iron per hour at maximum. However, we have only been able to reproduce 380 iron per hour so far, but 400 can definitely be reached though. So if you want to know which iron farm that is, by the way, this is Old Guy's Iron Farm Trading Hall iron farm, and this one works perfectly for the 1.15 update, so a link to that will be down below, of course. And make sure to subscribe to Old Guy, because he's a friend of mine and he builds the best iron farm there are, period, for Bedrock Edition. And another change that occurred in the 1.15 update in regards to iron farms is that villagers now require a workstation for golems to spawn. Previously they did not, but now they do. And that's also why this trading hall iron farm hybrid will work perfectly in the 1.15 update, and it will produce around 5 stacks or more per hour, which is pretty great. And of course, you can build 4 of those in your simulation distance, and you can crack the 1000 iron per hour mark. And if you want to see how to do that, then just go onto Old Guy's channel, which I have linked in the description, like I just said before, and all of that is documented down there. So all in all, this update is kind of bittersweet, because they introduced many long time awaited things, like some parity changes, and of course they severely buffed iron farms, which was a very long overdue change. Now we can actually build huge storage systems and stuff with decent iron farm rates, and they're not quite up to Java parity yet, but it is quite enough for any survival world, and I think that it will be enough for the exploit server. Now, there have been some very detrimental changes as well, like the removal of gravity block stacking, and that was a very community beloved mechanic, and I hope we can get that back. So like I said, there's a feedback post in the description, and make sure that you do check it out, read through it. I did specify a lot of use cases and why this mechanic is not harmless in any way, and yeah, you should definitely go upvote it. And make sure to share it around so that you can spread the word. Now, there are also other bugs, of course, in this update, like leaves blocking tree generation, and all that other stuff that I showed off already, and I put links to the bug on the bug tracker in the description, so you can upvote those and make sure they get fixed. But all in all, this update is, I suppose it's fairly nice. It's a step in the right direction, but it's also sort of one of the most bittersweet updates. So sand pushes being removed, or not being removed, but broken as a consequence of the gravity block stacking mechanic being removed, that is a very detrimental change that I don't welcome, and I hope that they do bring it back in some shape or form. Either way, I think this is pretty much all I have to show for the overview. There's of course a link to the changelog in the description, and that changelog documents most of the superficial changes, but I of course have shown you the mechanic changes that I have been able to observe. So that means the more important changes that could be seen in technical gameplay. And of course there are really superficial things, like I already said, but yeah, you can find those in the changelog. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of these types of videos, because I do post them regularly. But with that being said, thanks for watching, my name's Nex, and bye bye.